Alright guys, what we got for you today, we're doing a garage gun build. Alright, hey, what's up everybody? Isaac and Levi from Honor the Wild. We are doing something a little bit different. We are doing basically a garage build, no gunsmithing of a 6.8 Western. What I'm going to do is I'll do a timeline down below for anything specific you're looking for, you know, barreled action, bedding, whatever. It'll be down below so you can just skip straight to that. Otherwise, we're doing the full build, start to finish. And what we're going to go over is everything that you need to have to do it and everything we're using to do it. The stock we're using for this build is the chalk branch from AG Composites. The barrel is a 26-inch carbon fiber barrel from Oregon Mountain Rifle Company with their self-timing brake. The action is the Mac Brothers stainless steel Evo 2. The trigger will be a TriggerTech single stage primary. The bottom metal will be the Hawkins Precision M5 detachable box magazine, or their DBM, and we'll be using their 3-round box magazine in short action. So you'll need a bedding compound, and we'll be using the Acroglass gel that we got from Brownells. You also need a release agent for the bedding material, and we'll be using Johnson's paste wax. You'll need clay or putty for filling the gaps when you do the bedding. You'll need go, no-go gauges, and we rented those from 40 Reamer Rentals. They send them right to you, you use them, and you mail them right back. And then the last thing you'll need is a barrel vise.
We got our barrel in the barrel vise. First thing that we're going to do is we're going to screw the receiver on. Couple of notes, if you do have a non-shouldered pre-fit, which we have, it's a Remington barrel. It's the Remington threads, but the idea behind it is you're going to have a nut just like the Savage uses.
And that's kind of so you have the flexibility of interchanging barrels if you want to.
Absolutely,
correct?
Yeah. As long as the bolt face matches the caliber that you want and you get the barrel chambered, you're able to set your own head spacing, which we're going to show you. Things to note is you definitely want to have your nut on and screwed. I'm obviously not reef on it, but screwed all the way towards the muzzle end of the barrel, and then you're just going to start. Make sure, obviously, not to cross thread. Just start it on and get it on fairways. We don't have the barrel tightened down just yet because we want to have, when we start checking the head spacing, we want to have the bolt up top, so we're going to twist the barrel when we get it close. So just twist it on. So once you get it kind of close, you take your bolt and you insert it, and we're going to, oh, we're already too far. You want it to close, right? And we're just going to obviously tighten the barrel down once we get close. We can feel that snap right there was the plunger coming back into it, and we can lift and shut. Right there, it's kind of tight. So then you want to take your nut. This is with the go gauge in. You want to take your nut and you want to kind of tighten it down, make sure that we're still good. You take your go gauge out. You get your no-go gauge. Again, these are very sensitive tools. Don't drop them at all. You can mar them. You can. A good drop on the concrete will render a gauge ineffective. So this is our no-go gauges in here. Slam the bolt forward, and that's as far as we can go. We cannot go any further, which is perfect because that means no go. That's hence the name of the gauge. It's so far in there that we can't even. Our extractor won't hook onto it. So we're going to take that out. We're going to take the barrel out, or I guess the barreled action at this point. Take that out. We're going to get our go gauge, excuse me. Double check, make sure everything's right. Then we're going to tighten down the barrel, and we're going to torque this nut. And as we torque this nut, we want to pay special attention, make sure that neither the barrel nor the receiver move, only the nut, because obviously that is going to shift your head spacing if either the barrel or the receiver moves. So now we have our go gauge. It's the green one. Obviously green means go. We're going to put it in just to double check. Push our bolt forward. Oh, see, that one doesn't slam. So we're going to back it off just a hair. Now it shuts. And I can feel it if you want to just really fine tune, this is why I do it a lot. I can feel it touch right there. So we're going to back it off just a hair and then tighten our nut. We're going to call that really good right there. So now we got our head spacing, we checked, double checked, triple checked. We're going to tighten down this nut. We're going to use this wrench here. I taped it up to not mar the nut here, and we're just going to torque it down. No, I do not have an official torque wrench because I don't have a socket that will fit that size. And then we are paying careful attention to both the barrel and the action to make sure that neither of them are twisting. What you don't want to do is over tighten it, because you can strip these threads, rendering your barrel effectively useless at that point. Now we have a barreled action. We went ahead and took the bolt out because we're going to be screwing our barreled action to our stock to make a rifle. We went ahead off camera and pre-fitted this just a little bit. We noticed that our trigger hanger right here was hitting on the stock and the pillar just a little bit, so we went ahead and chowdered that out with a Dremel. And now we're going to show you, we're just going to fit it in just like this. And we're going to be using, when we bed it, I mean, this is just a pre-fit, we're going to be using these little tools we got from, I think it was Midway USA. If you don't have those, another thing to do to make sure everything lines up is just go ahead and get some either all thread or a longer stud of the same thread pitch to make sure that, and this will go straight up through your pillars, to make sure that you're centered. Your action is centered inside your stock. You want these to fit tight inside your pillars. Otherwise, you're going to get a little slop and play back and forth that way, and that's not what you want. So now that we know that our barreled action fits perfectly inside of our stock, we're going to prep for bedding. That's going to include filling all of our voids in here that we don't want with some sort of clay. You're going to want to fill your bolt recess right here. You're going to want to fill in your trigger area. You're going to want to fill in, this is obviously a detachable box mag, you want to fill that in right there. You're going to want to decide where you want your bedding to stop, and you're going to build a little dam right here. We'll show you all what it looks like. And then you definitely want to clean all of this. We got little alcohol wipes that you would use like at a doctor's office before a shop. When you get to your action, we're going to be taking off our trigger hanger. We're going to be filling that with putty. We're going to fill this with putty, or take it out, one of the two. Another thing to note is on your recoil lug, what you're going to want to do is put a layer of tape along here, and it's debatable. I like putting it on a layer on the front. Definitely don't do it on that side, because when you think about when the gun shoots, it goes backwards like that. You want to have that flush. You want your bedding as close to that as possible. And because he does not plan on changing the barrel and keeping the stock with it, we're going to bed it to probably about here to include the nut. So we're going to build our dam somewhere in here. We're going to put this back in, mark that, put our dam there, and then once we get everything, we double, triple check and refit with all of our clay and stuff. We're going to put a lot of release agent on here. What I like to use, and I've used in the past, is the Johnson's paste wax. Other guys use stuff. The Acroglass actually comes with release agent. I don't personally care for that too much. With the paste wax, you put a layer on and you rub it in really good, almost to a shine. Put another finish on, rub it down, and then you just don't want any globs. You'll see what I'm saying when we start going. But you want it nice and smooth. And don't forget to fill these little holes like this with putty or clay. So we're going to be pouring a lot of bedding compound in here. What ideally we'd like to see is it come out. That way you know every void is filled inside the stock. Schools of thought, you can let it run out and clean it up as it comes out, as you tighten down those these handy dandy little tools. I like to preferably tape it off, and when I know that it's kind of secured, rather than clean up a whole bunch of stuff off the stock, I'll just rip the tape off and throw that away immediately, and then I will fine tune my lines up here, and we'll show you how we do that. I'm going to tape off the majority of his stock right where I don't want, so right on the line, essentially, his stock line right here. Down there it gets a little tricky, so we'll use a couple different pieces. So that right there is essentially what I like to have before I start bedding. So that's essentially your kit. You're gonna look up the ratio that you want. You're gonna mix it up for the appropriate amount of time that they say so. And don't forget safety first, wear gloves and glasses if you want. So a couple notes when you're mixing this stuff is do not dip this in there and then get it out. Take a popsicle stick, get your stuff out, get it in there. So what happens is once you get this full and you go to take your measuring cup and put it in that one, then all of your resin or your hardener is gonna be ruined because you mix the two. Once you get this, you take the other end of a popsicle stick or a different popsicle stick and you put it in there. That's our resin. We're now gonna get our hardener here. This particular bedding compound calls for a 1-to-1 ratio. We are gonna use some black dye because we believe that it's gonna work well with the stock that we have. So we're gonna now measure this out appropriately. Get our black dye in there. I do not like letting them mix right away until I'm ready to actually start stirring them up. That's why I put that off to the side. Cool thing about this stuff is that when you get to use measuring sticks like this, you don't have to mix all of it all at once. You don't have to empty each of them out. And they give you enough dye, brown and black, to do at least one, if not two stalks if you're careful. I'm going to take my bigger popsicle stick and probably want this as black can be. And this stuff calls to be mixed for, I think it's like 3-4 minutes, something like that, 5. We're definitely going to mix as well as we possibly can. Forget to always clean your stick because there's going to be little boogers of either hardener or your resin stuck to it. It's been our 4 or 5 minutes, whatever it was. This is good consistency. I like this stuff. What I like doing, see, obviously I already got some on the stock. I like filling it in, pushing it down into the crevices. The big major thing with doing a stock, my opinion, is making sure that you have enough down in that recoil lug area. Sometimes when it's thick like this, almost like peanut butter, you gotta push your stick all the way down there. Make sure you get all those air pockets out and it adheres. You can see, I just like making sure that the bedding compound actually sticks to each part of the stock like that. When you get to an area like we have right here with our pillar, what I like to do is I like to just leave globs, leave extras around, kind of even use the edge of the stock, but I don't like filling it in. When you tighten down the stock, that will automatically fill in, but you want to make sure that you have enough of this material around it. It looks like a mess, but we've done the precautions to where it won't be a mess. On these sides, you just really want to make sure that it's adhering to the stock, and just leave enough to where you want it to seep out on the outside, not the inside. I would rather have too much in here and have to clean up off the sides than not have enough. Not having enough is, I guess it's pretty much pointless. This is gonna really spooge out when we get it. So before you put your barreled action in, make sure that you have everything ready for cleanup. You should probably already done that before you started mixing the compound like we did. But we're going to double check. We have our bolts here that we're going to screw up, make sure the action sits down nice and neat. And we have, what I like is a lot of these wipes here. I also use Q-tips with alcohol on them, and then I have little dental picks that I'll use to clean up some stuff. So we're just going to go ahead and start to just kind of the front one. You see, as you're tightening down, that is exactly what you want to see. You want to see it coming out of everywhere. So this is just like I was talking about. I just taken off the majority of this. Remember, we got tape underneath it. I just like taking the big globs off. It's just a tedious process. Don't worry about the mess right now. None of it's setting up. We're all good. A lot of this stuff on the tape I really don't care about because I'm going to be taking the tape off. I just took one of these popsicle sticks and I cut it in half. Remember, we got release agent on all this. That's starting to get a little too dirty. This is just kind of like a rough, getting the majority of the crap away from where we don't want it. So now that I got the majority of that off right there, rather than just trying to clean up everything that's got tape on it, I'm just going to take the tape off. See how that leaves a nice clean line along the stock, and then oh, there's a little bleed over, which is fine. Now comes a fine cleaning, because remember, whatever you leave here, it's going to harden So what I like doing is taking these little wipes and I'll kind of just put them on like a dental tool. And obviously I want to keep my receiver, even though I have release agent on it, I don't want to scrape it off later. I'd rather just, that kind of counteracts. And you're going to go through a lot of these wipes. Don't be afraid to just, they're cheap. Sometimes you'll get it back over the stock, that's fine, just run it along the side. So the last little step, once you're happy with your lines and everything, just make sure that there's nothing on your stock or your receiver. So we got it to where we like it. This bedding compound calls to let it sit for 10 hours. We're going to let it sit overnight and we'll come back tomorrow and see what we got. So we let it sit overnight. We actually let it sit for 2 nights. And we're just gonna take it apart. We're gonna clean up all of the clay compound and clean up the barrel and clean up the bedding area. First step is to move the cat off of the workbench. I forgot to mention when we were putting these guys in, these tools, should you buy them, purchase them from like Midway or wherever. When you put them in, make sure to look at the underside, or when you put them into that tool. These have an Allen wrench and the opposite side does not. So if this gets stuck, like it didn't come out because both sides are threaded, you just put your Allen wrench in there and it'll twist out. So a lot of you guys are wondering how you take the barreled action out. I took the advice of an old dude that had bedded mini barrels, and he said that you just hold it like this, obviously so it doesn't pop out, and you just smack it really hard against your hand. That's pending if you don't want to try and pop it out. I mean, that's a good bedding job. So we're gonna, you can kind of hear it crack a little bit. Still didn't crack that much. Ooh, that one's in there. Ooh, there she is. So this is our stock, and what we're really paying attention to is this area here, because all of this stuff is going to be removed. And the dam up here, we'll show you once we clean it up. You can see there's a nice line right there. It goes up and we'll clean that up. But these, especially around the pillars and back here, you can see we got full submergent everywhere. That's really not a word, but you know what I'm saying. And we'll clean up these lines and it's going to look awesome. So all we're going to do is just going to finish cleaning this up, and we'll show you a nice final project in just a minute. Next we're going to install the trigger. These Mac Brothers actions are pretty cool. They have a trigger hanger, so you can actually take it off of the action with this little bolt right here, and you can assemble or install your trigger away from the action. Actually, I think these go this way. Well, that one wants to go, because we know that goes on the bottom of the action in the rear, and he is right-handed. We know that this little guy, when we line it up, we'll get her started, goes right here. We just need to pop this guy out. now our trigger is ready to be installed onto our action. There we go.
All right, so now we got the trigger on. So the next step is actually putting this into your stock. So you gotta be a little careful. Don't wanna get too crazy about it, just kinda line it up. And that one actually slid in pretty nice and easy. All right, so then since we're doing the detachable box mag, not much to mess with here. You just put your bottom metal in. Like that. Gonna start the back one first. So the back one is the longer screw. And then the front one is the shorter screw. Just get them snug to start with. There you go. Got the bottom metal on, and that is it. That is your complete build right there. So the only other thing that you need to do is make sure whatever you're doing, bottom metal or whatever, that you cycle everything good. We did that, and it is smooth. So that is it.